Sports. I'll come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune. From the booth to the field, every Saturday feeling you home. We ride that rivalry, make that living room sound like the zone. From Tiger Grouse to Rebel Crowds, every hometown heartbeat loud. Robin Brand turning up that talk like you right there inside the crowd. SEC, sideline sports on my mind. Rob Brown calling game time, highlight shine, executive mind. Brandon Martin keeping Rob in line. Like, subscribe, share it, tell everyone. Sideline sports, y'all come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune.
Hell yeah!
We're gonna
I don't know, man. Not a very good day for the SEC.
We should be wearing black arm patches.
I just feel like an idiot talking about how good the SEC was all year.
Bartu said it, and I bought in. I said, the defense, nobody plays defense, and not that a lot of schools out there playing elite level defense, but we'll get into that. We got Coach Matt Dean joining us, John Hartwell traveling today. Also, Tommy Kane coming in. Kevin Skarbinski's water heater exploded. Tommy, thank you for coming in short notice. I'm going to tell you one thing. Thank you more than you know for sharing your time, both of y'all. And Brendan, executive producer, I cannot say enough great things about you. Do us a favor. Take a picture with your phone of the QR codes. We're broadcasting, streaming live, 9 channels of Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitter. Share it, like it, subscribe. Y'all know what to do. It's simple, and it is a Monday, March 30th, 2026. It's Holy Week, and holy shnikes, guys. Matt, what happened to the SEC? My black arm patch came off. I had it on, and Brendan had his eye patch on. But, man, Bartu said there's not one team in the SEC in the top 50 with scoring efficiency defense. And he predicted that the first SEC – our number 1 seed to go down would be Florida, and he was right. And unfortunately, the Hawkeyes went down, but the Big Ten has the big stage.
Tommy, it's great to be. I should say Kane, Thomas.
Tommy
it's good
Kane.
to be on with you today, brother. I was thinking of you, ironically, being an NC State guy that last possession because that game was over. I hate to say it. We practice those situations. We call it rollback. So what's interesting about this, there's only 10 seconds left in the game because in a situation like that, you don't need to get the ball across midline to win the game, right? That's number one. Looking back, they did everything right except for that pass. Cam Boozer absorbs that trap. The reversal's there. We have someone cutting over the trap. We get the ball to the middle, right? Now, normally, we always send the 5-man deep. We get the 5-man the heck out of there. I'm talking about press offense, right? The 4-man, really they had a bunch of guards on the floor, was also way too deep in my opinion. He should have been more in the slot up the sideline, but that's okay because I think the mistake that was made was you never see like a double in the middle of the floor. So I think Caden initially took a dribble in and kind of like freaked out like, oh my God, these guys are going to trap me. And I don't know what the possession arrow was like either. So I don't know if Duke had the possession arrow or UConn. But looking back at the whole thing, Tommy, I think a coaching moment in that is, hey, we should have probably called timeout, settle the guys down after the free throw. Okay, before even the pass, right? Let's walk this through. And then I will tell you another thing about the women's game that I like better than the men's game. We're allowed to, in the last minute of the game, advance the ball to half court like the NBA.
Half court, that's right.
And it's a much easier inbounds play in that situation. But the problem was Duke got it in. They did everything right until the pass that was deflected. And then really the only thing that was awkward about that was normally there was one man in front of you, and as a guard, you drive by that situation. There was 2 in the middle of the floor. That was kind of unique zone pressure by UConn. They had nothing to lose, and I just think maybe a timeout would have settled everyone down. And the point would have been, hey, we don't have to go forward to win this game. We can stay in the backcourt.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, It was a phenomenal basketball game, top to bottom. And, you got to give a lot of credit to UConn for hanging in there, 19 points down. I mean, I saw a stat this morning that blew my mind, and it was like when a number one seed has been, I'll read it to you real quick. When a number one seed has been, or there's 134-1 in the scenario when they're up by 15 at halftime, a number one seed. In the history of the NCAA tournament, 134-1, and that one is Duke now that's lost. And, look, UConn just was resilient and never gave up. And, this goes back to, again, kind of goes back to what we always seem to be going back to. But, the Boozer brothers, they're freshmen. This time last year, they were playing in high school basketball. Yeah. You put them on the biggest stage. Now, that's a seasoned 3-year vet guard that gets that ball in the middle of the floor. He doesn't make that pass. He's smart. He holds on to the ball. He lets the clock run out. He lets him foul it, does whatever. Yeah. But this kid's a freshman. He's, and look, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's a split screen that people put out of the social media of the action of the game, and then of Coach Snyder on the top and his reactions during that time. And he is literally saying to him, he's watching the ball, and he points like down the floor, like you can see him point because those guys are wide open. There's nobody, because they brought all the pressure in the front court. They didn't put any pressure in the back court, and he points, and instead of like trying to pump and go down low or just dribble or hold whatever, he just like tries to chunk it over the top, and that's just it. It just killed him. And look, even after they stole that ball, there was probably a less than 1% chance they were going to win the game.
That's right. That shot.
The guy hits the shot that was phenomenal. And the kid that needs to get the most credit is the kid that had the ball, that had the calmness to take a dribble or two, not panic, and hit that kid with the shot, to hit Mullins with the shot for the shot. That kid could have just chunked it up from there because there was no time on the clock, but he did. He made the pass. It was an amazing basketball game. It was one of the most extraordinary college basketball games I've ever watched. Yeah,
it was. And what was neat was, Bill Raftery, Ian Eagle, and Grant Hill, got to have a Duke minder on every broadcast, like the Ohio State minders. And I thought of you, Tommy. I thought of you, how the sorrowful sadness when Duke lost. And Franz Beard, my God, Franz, he does not like Duke. He doesn't even spell it with a D, with a U. The ending of that game, and my son said, Bobby Hurley, alpha male culture, Dad, you're right. It wins. I don't know the guy, and I don't know if y'all know him or not, but his team, Tommy just hit it. And Matt, as a coach, and you do too as a player and coach, Tommy, you had less than 2 seconds and nobody panicked. Cool hands under pressure, Matt and Tommy. Yeah. That was the message there.
Yeah. Danny, I knew Danny's brother Bobby because we were in the school at the same time. He was at Duke when I was at NC State. And so when we got done playing, we were both finished our senior years. He had a little bit better of a career than I did. Not by much, but just a little bit.
A little. But look at you now.
A little bit. Yeah. But I knew him pretty well. Decent. We played in a couple of barnstorming games after our senior years to go around the state and play. He was a nice, great guy. He was in the spotlight in those days because of that, the whole Christian Laettner and all that stuff. And those guys were like rock stars everywhere they went. But I've never met his brother. But, we talked about on the last show that I was on with you guys, like he's an old school kind of throwback coach. He gets in your face and he yells at you, screams at you, and he expects a lot. And, you have to have a certain kind of toughness in today's day and age as a kid to put up with that and play with it. And man, he got the most out of those kids last night. It was, and I was pulling for Duke because the ACC, even though I'm not, I just wanted the ACC to be represented, and I thought Duke has had a great season. And I'm not a big UConn fan per se, but man, he just gets the most out of those kids. Matt, I'm sure you agree with me on that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Matt, last week, Kevin Skarbinski, Scarbo Knows. It's a great podcast on this channel. Love it. Watch it. Learn it. Kevin said, interesting stat, the last 4 times UConn has advanced to the Sweet 16, second weekend, 2011, 2014, 23, and 24. They won it all. This is now 3 Final Fours in the last 4 years. That is impressive. And my son, somebody said they have a chance to make history. And I said, UCLA won 7 in a row, 68-74 before Houston broke that 125 game winning streak or whatever. Wasn't that about what it was, Matt? Am I exaggerating?
It was up there. I got to tell you though, go back to the Hurley brothers. The dad's the toughest of them all. I mean, you just look up in the stands, legendary high school coach. I think there was a clip, Tommy, when that shot went in, mom was like saying, "Oh shit," or something. Sorry for my language on the FCC here, Brendan. But I mean, it was just amazing. If you watch the cutaways to his father in games, he's just so stoic. It's like nothing phases him. And I got to tell you, that's the way Danny coaches. You're right, Tommy. When they get down 17, he gets over there and there's no panic. They have championship DNA, and they're talking about, hey, if we can get to this such a lead at this time, we can still win this game. Let's win 3 or 4 possessions. We used to call it stop, score, stop. Let's get 2 stops in between a score and change this whole game around. When you can get multiple stops in a row defensively, you can change the whole narrative of a basketball game.
That's
and
right.
UConn did that. How about this stat, Tommy? Going in, I think the last 3 minutes last night, maybe it was 4 minutes, they were 1 of 18 from 3. On their last 5 3-point attempts, they go 4 of 5. And obviously the huge one at the end there. But Tommy makes a great point. Sarabam was the one that really set that play up after the turnover, because he could have panicked and tried to penetrate, and who knows if he gets a shot off or not. He let the help come to him. He kicks the ball out. Now, it was a long shot, but this is an Indiana kid that was the Mr. Basketball, I believe, in the state of Indiana. And just when the ball's in the air, I'm like, that's got a chance. That's got a chance. And all of a sudden, it's just nothing but nylon. And the expression, Rob, and you said it, they had a cutaway of my guy, Bill Rafferty, with Grant Hill and Ian Eagle. Eagle's going nuts on the broadcast, but Rafferty was stunned. Grant Hill was probably more stunned because he's a Duke alum, obviously. But I tell you what, I've been in these games as a coach. I've lost some really tough games, Tommy, but I can't remember losing a game like that. That's,
you know what? Yeah, I mean, Matt, it was, you know what the shot reminded me of from where he shot it from was Jenkins in Villanova in 2016.
You're right. You're right.
You know? I mean, like, granted, that was a national championship game, and that's like that was one of the most iconic shots you'll ever see in college basketball. I mean, it was just perfectly executed, everything else, but it reminded me a lot of that because it was pure nylon. It didn't touch a rim. I mean, it splashed, and I mean, it was awesome. But that is a tough pill to swallow for the Duke program as far as losing that game. I mean, 19 points. It wasn't like they were back and forth the whole game, and all of a sudden, then UConn makes that crazy shot. I mean, when you lose a lead of 19 points, that's pretty devastating. That's a hard pill to swallow. Now, I'll tell you, Matt, and I agree with what you were saying earlier. One of the things when I knew we used to coach high school basketball, and even in college and stuff, when I was with the team, with being everybody, we used to always, if you were down, we'd take the game and break it down into segments. And coach would say, okay, from between now and the TV timeout, we got 2 minutes. Let's win this 2 minutes.
That's right. Let's
win this 2 minutes. So what you try to do is you win the game in segments, and you break it down into time chunks and time things. And so, it was and that kind of gives your team that, okay, we're not trying to win this whole game right now. We're trying to win the time segments and the chunks. And if you can do that and put a couple of those back to back, then all of a sudden you cut your lead in half and you're right back in the ball game. And I mean, I was looking at the stats this morning, gentlemen. Let me just throw these stats at you real quick because they're here in front of me. I was looking at them. Duke won that game across the board in all categories. They shot 52% from the floor. Wow. UConn 44%. 3-point line, they shot 40%. UConn 22%. Like, where do you come back with those kind of numbers? How do you come back when you're shooting 44% and 22% from the floor, right? I mean, that's just as crazy. And they had Connecticut had 5 turnovers the entire game. And Duke had 13. Like,
+8.
Yeah, +8. That's a big difference right there, right? But I mean, just statistically, you're like 22% from the 3-point line and you came back from 19 down? Yeah. Like in today's day and age, how do you do that? Yeah, it's great, amazing basketball game. I'm going to go back and watch it again. I just want to watch the whole thing again because now I know what's happening. I want to break it down from more of like a but game tape, as Coach Dean, you'll know, but like you break down the game tapes. Okay, where do you see the momentum start to switch? Where do you see the Duke lapses on offense where they're not playing as well or defensively, things like that? That's what I want to go back and watch now.
Well, I mean, a lot of people that know basketball really well will say Duke's not as tough as they used to be. John Shire played for Coach K. I think he's a really good coach. But to blow a 19-point lead, you got to credit UConn. And it wasn't Demery, one of UConn's players. Isn't he from Raleigh or Durham? He grew up right there in the Research Triangle, NC State, UNC, and, of course, Duke. So, I mean, that was pretty cool. Matt, from a coaching perspective, Danny Hurley's staff, they've been together a while, hadn't they?
Yeah, and Luke Murray, who we probably know as Bill Murray's son, for us 80 film aficionados, he's taking the Boston College job, I believe, guys, as soon as this run is over, which is a tough job. But, you know, I was thinking this the other night watching UConn play. This was against Michigan State. Now, ironically, UConn was up big against Michigan State, and Michigan State made it a really interesting game late in the second half. Michigan State came back. And I think going back to that run, Tommy, I think you look at Izzo and Hurley's mindset, talking about those segments of games where you can crawl back in the game. You know, you get down 3 touchdowns in football, it's really hard because it's hard to get the ball back sometimes, especially if you got a line of scrimmage where you're running the football. Basketball, there's so many possessions of a game. So we know in basketball, if I can speed my possessions up without turnovers, which UConn did, I can extend the game as long as I don't turn it over and I can get multiple stops like they did. And I think that stat you gave me, it was funny. You were talking about the field goal percentages, and then you gave me the turnover margin. I will tell you that was one of my crucial areas we had to win in a basketball game. And we could play poorly. But if we could have 5 to 8 turnovers, less turnovers than my opponent, it's 5 to 8 more possessions. So we don't have to shoot as well to win that basketball game because we're getting more opportunities to shoot the basketball. But I want to also, I don't want to be so critical to Coach Schreier here too. I said maybe call a timeout. They did everything right on the press break. When you call a timeout, you also allow UConn, who has a great staff, to set their defense more, right? They did everything right. And honestly, if the young man, Caden Boozer, decides to maybe step back and hold the ball and even decide to, hey, I don't like this, call a timeout with 5 seconds ago, right? We got a timeout left. Every time you leave the huddle, you know if you got no timeouts, 1 timeouts, 2 timeouts, that's your job late in the game as a staff. So they knew they had a timeout left before that free throw was going on. I promise you, they knew the timeout was left. The only decision was if they were going to use it after the made free throw. And I don't have a problem not using it, but you know, it is.
Yeah, Matt, I agree with you. Executionally wise, they did a great job. But the one good thing about calling a timeout before that happens is to get them the mindset of all the scenarios of what can happen and get them to calm down. Okay, you only got 10 seconds. We don't have to get the ball past half court. Right. You can call a timeout if you get trapped. Don't make any hastily decisions. You know, be strong with the ball. All the little fundamental things you got to kind of remind people about in the situational things. And then, I mean, but you're right. Then you call a timeout, then you let UConn maybe set up something that they're not ready to set up on defense. That's why it's a chess game at that point, right? And that's what but it goes back to, again, I'm going to say it again, but I mean, you got a lot of freshmen on the court. And Bob, you mentioned the comment about not being as tough as they used to be. Yeah, because when they used to play, they used to have 4 or 5 seniors and 3 or 4 juniors and these are all freshmen. Look across the board. I mean, there's maybe a couple of sophomore here and there, but you know, you're putting the ball in the hands of guys that this time last year were going to prom, and you're putting them on a national stage and to try to get them to the Final Four. I'm not saying they're not capable, but it's just a different mindset and it's a maturity thing. And in that situation, I think the maturity thing got the best of them. And
that's why I was quick to say John Shire played for Coach K, tough as nails. And it's not that you're right. You're talking about freshmen. I mean, you know, Brendan didn't just start producing yesterday. And when we started working together, I mean, it was like you threw me in the deep end, you know, when I was a kid. And it's like, you better figure out how to swim because you're with a badass. I seriously, you get better. I always like to ride, run, swim, whatever, with people faster than me. Sometimes I'm the fastest. But you know what? the expectation should always be you're going to be great at everything you do. You should expect to. I never wake up, never go into a sales meeting not thinking and knowing I'm going to get it. I may not always get it, but I know I am because I'm going to do my part. And I thought the coaching, this is so cool to hear two basketball, savant, is another term, geniuses. Y'all are the technical analysis of this is awesome and breaking it down. And I want to get into now because I think Shire's a hell of a coach. I really do.
Yeah.
And he's welcome on this show anytime. So, let me say, the SEC, it wasn't a collapse, but Bartu said it best. They're dadgummit. The lack of defense, it catches up with you. And but Kelvin Sampson, he's known as Mr. Defense. They didn't make it as far this year. But Matt, Alabama, Friday night, they're up by 1 or 2 at the half. You live and you die by the 3. In the second half, it was awful. Tennessee, man, they got hit when they walked off the bus and just never recovered.
No.
That was that was just like watching, as Chuck Oliver says, watching a python eat at the zoo. It's what's going to happen, and it just took a while.
Couple things about the Tennessee game. First of all, it was a bad matchup. Secondly, Tennessee was in foul trouble 6 minutes into the game, and at that point, if you look at the first 7 or 8 minutes of the game, Tommy, it was actually a ball game. I thought Tennessee could play with them. And then the perimeter game started showing up for Michigan, which we all know Tennessee's weakness is making shots. When Tennessee makes shots and gets stops, they can play with anyone in the country. And once Michigan kind of made their run and got the double figures, I'm like, my 2 sons are both big-time ball fans, and I felt bad in the group chat yesterday because it got really quiet with about 10 minutes left in the first half. And I understand.
My wife is a ball for life. It got quiet. We left the house.
I will tell you this. I learned a lot about Michigan this weekend watching those games. They're even better than I thought. They went 19-1 in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten has what? They had 5 Elite 8 teams. Is that correct? They got 2 Final Four teams, and I think I talked about this probably in February, Rob, on your show. I thought Illinois could get to the Final Four a long time ago. Illinois is a really good team. I think they're going to beat UConn in the semifinals. We'll talk about that later. But for now, if you're looking at pure matchups, Alabama, they live and die by it, and they couldn't sustain it, and they couldn't get stops. It's a little bit of what happened with Arkansas against Arizona. When you're going to live and die by offense and you can't get stops this time of year, it's going to be really hard to win basketball games. So I think the opposite of Tennessee. What a great year by Rick Barnes. Got this team to the Elite 8. Yeah. This team of the last 2 other teams that went. This is not as talented or as mature. Tommy also makes a great point. Can you imagine when Cam Boozer's 22 years old? He'll be an All-Pro twice in the NBA.
Yeah.
His father's body looked like Hercules when he got him in the NBA. Actually, really a senior year in college, to be honest with you guys.
He was Hercules.
Maybe he left as a junior, Tommy. I can't remember when he was drafted. But just honestly, you don't have these situations because these one-and-done freshmen, they're going to be – now, next year, he's not ready for the NBA. But he's going to possibly be the number 1 overall pick. I don't know how it's going to play out. So he has to go. But that's what's really interesting about this era. We don't have those great juniors and seniors. Everyone thinks of Michael Jordan. He's my guy. But I'm going to tell you something. If Lenny Bias, God rest his soul, wouldn't have passed away, Lenny Bias was a damn man. Yeah. And playing at a high level, he would have been a great player for the Boston Celtics. So, in the semis, let's look at this. You got 2 teams. Okay, Tommy, I read this. Maybe the first time in a decade that 2 teams with more than 35 wins are matching up in the semis. Michigan and Arizona. What's that? 35-3 versus 36-2. Think about that. There's 71 wins in a semifinal game. That's phenomenal. And the other game, what's interesting is Illinois and UConn. You talk about toughness. Brad Underwood can coach, guys. He can coach. He didn't get his first head job till he's 49 years old. He'll tell you he's an old JUCO guy. He grinded. And now his teams resemble his personality. And I want to just say a little shout out to my Hawkeyes. It's 63-59 with 2 minutes to go against a really good team. And Iowa had a great year. We're losing. I say we. I'm a Hawkeye, lifelong Hawkeye fan. They're losing Bennett Sturtz, who was arguably one of the best point guards in the country this year. And it's interesting because Iowa's style of play is really unique. They have fewer possessions almost than anyone in the country. They manage the clock and attack late in the clock. And it really kind of worked out there for them this year.
Well, one thing really neat, what you just said about Bennett Sturts and the job, Brad Underwood at Illinois is doing. When you come up the junior college ranks, high school, junior college, and again, I think, and I'm not saying this to placate you, Matt, but I do think about some of the smartest people I've ever talked to have been D2 and D3 basketball coaches, because their programs, we're not born on home plate and think they hit a grand slam.
Right.
They have to get there. And their journey, hearing people and letting them tell their stories like on this show, I'm in awe. I mean, it is so, Tommy, your story, I mean, that you can't make that up. You've got to live it. And your convictions come from reality. And looking at, the SEC, Florida went down, didn't even get to the Sweet 16. But the defense wasn't that good. And the backcourt it wasn't Walter Clayton Jr. and Elijah Martin, Denzel Aberdeen. He went to Kentucky. Money doesn't solve all your problems. If money can solve it, it's not really a problem. No. $22 million at Kentucky, they brag about that. I wouldn't be bragging too much. Florida did, a number 1 seed, but they didn't get the championship Final Four. Under $9 million, we're told. Ole Miss spent a lot. Chris Beard is coming back, but they're going to expect a lot more. Where does the SEC? I'll throw this out there. What direction is the SEC likely to go with rev sharing? All the football schools, I would think, will continue to put tons into football, and I can't imagine it's going to be that easy to get basketball money, guys, or any other sport.
You know what? You start talking about the numbers for these NIL guys and to get the kids to play on the teams, and you're talking 18, 20 million here and there or whatever. Do you remember think about in the NBA, the salaries in the NBA, how they've grown exponentially over the decades, right? I mean, just ridiculous. Like if Jordan was playing in today's day and age, he'd be making $200 million a year. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? If somebody doesn't step in and put some guardrails on this whole freaking system, the way we're going, these schools are just going to be like, screw it, let's just keep throwing money in the basketball program or whatever. And you're going to have payrolls of $100 million coming up for teams. I mean, it really is. And people are going to want to win. I mean, look what LSU is doing, Jake's down there trying to, bringing in Lane and bringing in and Will Wade and all that crap that they've been pulling off. I mean, they're grasping after. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, the Wolfpack are riled up this morning. Now, I mean, but it's frustrating if you're an NC State fan.
Good riddance, Rob.
Yeah.
If he's got that kind of character, I don't want him coaching my program. Yeah. Simple and plain and put. If he's got that kind of character, I don't want him coaching my program. I don't want him coaching the young men at NC State, and I don't want him representing my school. So good riddance.
Did you hear Winifred Sanderson's comments on him? Winifred E. Wimp Sanderson, the man of the plaid jacket. He's just really just. Wow. The decorum prohibited him, I think, saying what he really wanted to say. But look, I think Will Wade reminds me of the kids today that are jumping around in the portal. And we're starting to see coaches do that. Wait until you have boycotts by the fans, and they're coming, Matt Dean. They're going to walk out of stadiums. They're going to walk out of gyms and say, enough. We want you got to have structure. We have none.
Tommy, I think you and I were on the show together when Hartwell kind of broke that, even though you probably had been hearing the grumblings because you're over there, you're an alum, but I was like, that probably bothered me more in a 48-hour period about our profession of just the character and how he handled that situation. I'll never pull for that guy again. No. I also heard, and I don't know, I heard that maybe Justin Gainey, who's on Rick Barnes' staff, may be in consideration for your guys' job.
Yeah,
I got to tell you what, you get anyone on Rick Barnes' staff, they come out of there with a little bit of appreciation for loyalty and how to run a program.
No question.
And I also want to say this, Rob. I coached my whole career. You know what my NIL has been at Rhodes College? It's been high med school placement rates for really good students. Okay,
which is a lot bigger deal.
No, but I mean, I've coached between 8 and 10 successful doctors, and some of these young women could have played at the Division I level, but my sell was always, hey, you come here, basketball we want first, academics a close second, and when you leave here, you're going to get into med school and you're going to meet your dreams off the floor. And I can't imagine if I had a $6 million NIL budget, guys. I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and pat myself on the back. I've done this for 35 years. it's amazing to me what's going on in our profession right now. There needs to be more evaluation. There needs to be more development. We're taking chances on guys with a lot of money because of one-hit wonders. I'm sorry, guys. It's got to be – Tommy's
100%.
right. There's got to be guardrails. There's got to be a cap. There's got to be structure. And sometimes a coach has got to say, you know what, I'm not going to spend that. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. And you're seeing teams that have these juniors and seniors on certain rosters. High Point was a great example, that can compete with big-time programs.
Yep. I mean, we had a perfect scenario at NC State this year. Darren Williams, a kid out of Texas Tech, they had a great run in the tournament last year. He was the number one kid coming out of the portal. We went and grabbed him. I don't know. I think we paid him a little over $1.5 million to come play for us, and he was preseason ACC Player of the Year by the voting just because of that one year he had before. And he was not a bust, but he wasn't nearly what he was supposed to be. He was our second leading scorer on our team. He just wasn't like this wow player. And he, it is the nature of the business, and I hate it. I mean, I hate it. And I just, next year our whole roster is going to look completely different, and so is everybody else's. And it's just I don't blame the players as much, because most of these kids this is the most money they're ever going to make in their life.
That's right.
Because 99.9% of them are not going to go play professional basketball. So if you've got a chance to go make $400,000, $1 million, even $250,000 for a couple years, and you're 18, 19 years old, I don't blame you, because that's the way the system's set up. You're not breaking the laws. You're not doing anything you're not supposed to, so I don't blame you. Coaches, I have a problem with. And Jay Billis came on and, talked a big thing about how hypocritical it was, that we're mad at the coaches for leaving, but we don't get mad. The coaches don't get mad when the players leave, blah, blah, blah. You're a grown man. You're a professional. You are signing a contract and moving your family, dedicating your life at that point in time to that school to help build a program. You're saying all the right thing to the boosters and the alumni about you're going to build this program. You're going to do this Red Reckoning, and I'm going to bring it up to the NC State thing because it's fresh on my mind. But Will Wade was all about this Red Reckoning at NC State. We're going to build this. This is he came out after the last game of this year when we lost to Texas, and he said, this is the worst team I'm ever going to have here at NC State, because from now on, blah, 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 blah. He met with the AD for 2 hours on Tuesday, but the Tuesday before Friday when he just left to go to SU, and the AD was completely blindsided. He had no idea. The AD said they spent 2 hours. Boo Corrigan said they were sitting there talking for 2 hours about how they were going to build the program, and this is who they were going to go after, and this is the kind of money we were going to have. And then the guy just walks 2 days later. And now there's speculation coming out that he had actually repurchased his house he had down in Baton Rouge when he was originally there back in February of this year. In the middle of the season, he repurchased his house. So it sounds to me like there was a little pre-planning, and maybe I don't know what all was going into that. I think you could speculate all day on that. But my point is, with the coaches, if you're gonna be that way, handle it right. Handle it with some class. And don't just freaking bail out on the whole program and walk away. And there's got to be guardrails. I'm tired of it. I love watching the games. Last night, Duke UConn was a great example of why we all love watching the games. But if you look back into the structure and what builds these teams and what sets up these programs or whatever, that is completely broken. And somebody has to step in and do something. I don't know who it is or what it is, but somebody has to do something.
Well, think about this, structures, guardrails, and all like that. I live in Memphis. I go across the Mississippi River Bridge. It's a long, high bridge almost every day. How would you feel about going across that bridge doing 80, 90 miles an hour if they took the guardrails down on the side and there was a big thunderstorm with 35, 40 mile an hour winds blowing every direction, rivers white capping? How comfortable would you feel at night driving by yourself with no guardrails at 80 or 90 miles an hour versus putting the guardrails up? We need it for ourselves, because I can tell you money, it screws people up. And like I said, I never seen any of my clients ever give their children money. And I don't want to hear all the stuff about, well, most kids come from different, I don't care. Financial literacy is important. And I can vouch for Matt, because we've had a lot of interns where I've worked over the years on the trading floor from Rhodes, and every one of them gets a job offer. They come in hungry, motivated. And I think that's important. All right. So you look at Arizona. That's another one. The SEC play defense and keep these guys around longer. But Tommy Lloyd, he loves his job. It's just the 8th or 9th Final Four for Arizona. They've only got that one national championship Lute Olson won back in 97. But, man, what a fan base. And speaking of fan bases, Nebraska basketball, they're going to start attracting recruits to come play for that fan base, Matt Dean. The Midwest is on fire in basketball right now.
Well, one of the biggest recruits for Coach Hoiberg was Price Sanford, who transferred for Iowa, who was just a tremendous shooter, quick release. And really, Nebraska is a great story. And honestly, you know, Tommy, you think about Fred Hoiberg, just the class he exudes in win or loss situation. He had that situation where there was 4 men on the court late. He took ownership. Obviously, that's not what's supposed to happen. We know that. I've been in the game a long time. I've seen 2 of the craziest things this weekend was that situation and also how the Duke game ended. I think what happens is, guys, if I can go out and let's say I have a budget between $4 and $7.5 million, because you look at where it lies, there's a lot of people in that range. Okay. And I can find a way to retain my high school kids. That's number one.
Right.
Okay. And number 2, if I can get a player of that caliber that I know is going to stick with me for 2 or 3 years, I can build. The tough model is the Duke model. You know, you get a Cam Boozer who you see on the State Farm insurance commercials, whatever, with his brother. Yeah. And you know he's so good. He's player of the year probably. He's going to be one and done. They have to really reconstruct annually. And that's a much tougher model. And to Tommy's point, and we don't talk about this enough, when you're playing with 18 and 19-year-olds against 22 and 23-year-olds, I mean, it's tough sometimes. Tough all the time. So
yes, correct.
I think basketball is the one sport where you're always going to see a team like Nebraska or Iowa or Illinois for that matter. But I will tell you, you're going to miss on kids too. Wagler from Illinois, Tommy, I don't know if you've watched some of him. He was a 3-star out of Kansas. He's one of the best freshmen in the country, in my opinion. Amazing player. And Stojakovic's son, who played at Cal and Stanford, he's coming off the bench. He had like 19 off the bench. So, you know, Brad Underwood's doing it with a variety of different looks. He's got really good high school freshmen. He's got transfers, and he's got some kids from the European community that have really helped his roster. He's probably got 3 or 4 Euros on that roster. And that maturity level makes a difference when you're playing against some 18 and 19-year-olds that have just gotten into their situation and have played, 30 college games, 35 college games. Some of the European kids are just almost pro ready when you get
there. Well, and you're right, man. I mean, when you talk about the kids coming over from Europe, I mean, they just play a different style of basketball up there. They grow up with a different style of basketball. It's a lot more fundamental oriented. It's a lot more, you know, the nuances of the game are taught at a very young age, and it's not just roll the ball out and go play AAU basketball. I mean, they just don't do that as much, you know, and that's what we find here in the States a lot. You know, this AAU circuit's gotten so big and all that stuff. That's a whole other discussion for another day. But, you know, you just got people that are unqualified coaches that are just rolling the ball out saying, okay, guys, go run, jack up 3-pointers, try to dunk as much as you can. And that's what they learn. And I mean, I remember going to camps when I was a kid all my life, and you spend 3/4 of the day going to fundamental stations. You know what I'm talking about. You do defensive slides for 20 minutes. You do, you know, you do hedges on screens. You do pick and rolls. You do the shooting bank shots. I mean, you do all the fundamental stuff. You don't do that stuff anymore. I mean, it just doesn't exist. And so, but I agree with you on the European thing. Like I think you're going to see more and more coaches going after that, and more Europeans are going to want to come play because they're going to get paid.
That's right.
They're going to get paid a lot of money. So it just makes sense. I tell you guys, I was just looking at, so going back to the Arizona real quick, Arizona, Michigan it's very intriguing matchup to me. I don't know if Arizona's had this all year, but they're an underdog by a 1.5 underdog. Michigan's favored by 1.5. And I got to believe that's the first time in a long this year. I know for sure that Arizona's hasn't been favored. But I mean, that to me is the national championship game. I think whoever wins that game is going to win the whole thing. That's in my opinion. I think they're both just too loaded, too athletic. All can shoot the 3 if they need to, but they don't have to. And they're just going to get after you on defense. That to me is going to be the national championship game. I think UConn It's a great team. I think I agree with what you said earlier, Matt. I think they're going to struggle a little bit in the next game. But we'll see. That's why they play the games. That's why we love it. I mean, I didn't pick UConn to win in not one of my brackets, not one of them. So
yeah. Well, look at portability of success. Bartu talks so much about. Dusty May, Florida Atlantic, gets them in the Final Four, and he's done it now at Michigan within just a couple of years. Pretty impressive to be able to do that, because you're taking what you did to a whole nother level. And again, NIL and the money that's being thrown out there, there are a lot of schools that spend a lot of money and have very poor results, return on investment. The boosters have always funded under the table.
Right.
Okay. We know that.
Yeah,
but now you're telling schools are saying we're going to have a minimum $30 million budget or $40 million. Really? Then wait until some sponsor that owns a huge business does NIL with you, and your quarterback does something really stupid. Just go down the list, and you're going to suspend him. They're like going, "Oh, no, you're not. We've put $3 million into this kid, and we're one of your biggest sponsors. Put him on the court." And what are you going to do, Matt Dean?
Well, you're going to hope he's a better human being, for one. I mean,
there you go.
I think we knew this day one when this started, right? When we started investing in student athletes, especially at the sponsorship situation in the collectives. I mean, it's all about, how are they going to be off the floor? I will tell you this. It's been a really interesting, I say off season for teams that have been eliminated. Hubert Davis was up 19 in that first round loss. If they win, they get their stud back, I believe. Is that Caleb Wilson, Tommy? I'm not sure, the player that was not playing for North Carolina. Yeah. I think North Carolina would have been the Sweet 16. Now he's out of a job, and I'm hearing reports today that maybe is Billy Donovan leaving the Bulls to go North Carolina. Have you heard anything about that in the ACC network?
Well,
it wouldn't shock me. But I think for the first time, North Carolina is going to probably go outside the family, I think, for this hire, because they've exhausted all the family internal options. But going back to your point, Rob, we've seen examples of this, at different institutions. When you're 19 or 20 and they put all that pressure on you and you get that deal, that's the first time you've actually kind of had to handle that kind of expectations. Handling expectations are hard, guys. They're really hard. Yep. I mean, I remember, from a team standpoint, when you're predicted to finish first in the league, when those rankings come out, I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on those young people. I just think we're asking way too much. And I do think, going back to Tommy's earlier point, coaches have to be more professional in how they handle their business. The Will Wade example sets a really bad precedent for what's going on. I think he basically – I watched that press conference, Tommy, with Boo Corrigan, who's a great man. And just he looked, downright devastated a little bit to me. And just basically he was lied to. He thought he had the right guy. It's really hard to get these programs built. But then 2-3 years ago, you guys were in the Final Four. It just shows you have the history and the resources to do it on a consistent basis. You just need the right hire. And I think so many times in this business, I'm a former AD. We think we have the right hire, but sometimes you don't know what you got till you see it day to day. And then you don't even know what you got.
That's right. I mean, and you can never put them. I mean, it's like in any job, in anywhere in the world, right? IBM, you hire somebody you think is going to run the marketing department, and he's not good at it, and you got to get. It's always that. Here's what I'll tell you about the state of them. What Rob was just talking about with the money and everything like that. You can buy the best college basketball team you could possibly think of, and you still might not win anything.
Yeah,
because you're bringing in all these guys to come play that haven't played together. They don't have any chemistry yet. The coach's job now is not to develop them as a player for the next year, see what they're going to build. Their job is to try to take these 8 new guys that come in and try to make them into a team in one season. And it's most likely not going to happen. Like, it's to play. I mean, we talked about this ad nauseum, but you give me 5 guys that have played together for 3 or 4 years, and you have them play against 4 5 All-Americans that all came together to play for the first time together. I'm taking the 4 or 5 guys that played together for 4 years.
Well said.
I mean, I just am. And unfortunately, that just doesn't really exist anymore. So the job of these coaches now, and Snyder will feel that Duke and everybody else, because they're going to just every year they're bringing in new kids to try to get them to mold together and see if they can play together. And I think personally, as a purist of the game, what you start seeing is a whole lot of more individual one-on-one sets in the offensive side of the ball. You start seeing you don't see the great, constant motion offense where everybody's in the right place at the right time with the right spacing. It literally, if you watch the games and really watch them closely, there's usually come down the court, maybe one set off of a screen or something. And if that's not open, then everybody kind of spreads out and it becomes a pick and roll like the NBA. It's a high pick and roll and they try to get something off of that, and that's it. There's very little full sets of offense that they can run through all the options, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and try to get something. And that's because you can't coach all that in one season. You got to have guys that are veteran players that have been playing together for a long time. And it's just a state of the world. So
it is. It's got to be frustrating because they're looking at their mobile banking apps. There's a lot of stuff like that. And I don't think they get as upset after a loss. If you've got $1 million in your checking account and you're 18 years old and you lose a game, you got $1 million in your checking account. And it's, what the universities need to do is get a corporate liaison or a group of people that come in and say, look, y'all are getting some cash right now and all like that. But let me tell you something. I'm a CEO of a major bank with $50 billion, in deposits and stuff, and tell them what the real world is like. They're not doing that. And universities are charging tuition. I mean, it's you got to take out a second mortgage to send the kid to college now. And there's zero accountability with what they're doing. LSU is pushing close to $200 million, and all these coaches with Mulkey, Jay Johnston, Lane Kiffin, and now Will Wade. That's a lot of money. And then you hear the state is hurting for money and all. Wow, there's going to be we're already seeing the landmines. All right, so you got Arizona, Illinois, UConn, Michigan. Still, during the year, the best basketball league. It wasn't the SEC. I mean, Florida was the best hope the league had. But Big 12, Big 10, in the end, it's definitely the Big 10. Kansas went out early. We don't know what Bill Self's going to do.
Well, let me just say this about when you talk about the best leagues of the year. To me, the tournament doesn't define that. Yeah. We talked about this a couple shows ago. The winner of this tournament is not necessarily the best team in the country.
Best team in the tournament.
The best team in the tournament. But that's right. Great. And that's the way it's set up. And that's the least we have but that's what gives everybody an opportunity to not be the best team in the country, but still win a national championship if you get hot and play at the time. That's why we love March Madness. For you to say it's not the best conference because they don't have the guys in the Final Four or whatever, that's not always the case, right? I mean, the SEC had a great last year, especially was phenomenal. I mean, the ACC was better again this year with everything. A couple injuries for Carolina and some Duke injuries and stuff like that. Things could be completely different. But you have to have a measuring stick, and the measuring stick is for everybody is the NCAA tournament. And I get it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is the correct situation for the entire year and who had the best conference throughout the year. It's not. But again, that's why we love the NCAA tournament, because you got teams in there like, Iowa that made a great run that probably shouldn't have necessarily had a great basketball year, but they end up having a great run and they can build off of it now. That's what's awesome. So
yeah, Matt, they really will. I mean, a 9 seed, it's only happened 8 or 9 times to get this far, and they're tough as nails, and they do not lack for support. My God, they sell out every basketball, football, and it's Hawkeye Nation has money too. They got several billion in their endowment.
There ain't a whole lot to do out in Iowa, Rob. That's why they sell out all the games. No offense, Matt,
but that's a lot to do. Hey, listen. I've walked so many miles in Iowa pheasant hunting. They are loyal people, Matt. Look at Matt. You're still as much of a Hawkeye as you were when you were 7 or 8.
I can remember in '87 when we led UNLV by 18 or 16 at half to go to the Final Four in the Elite Eight and lost in the last minute. I can remember in 1980, Ronnie Lester led us to the Final Four. Yeah. Got hurt against Darrell Griffith, Dr. Duncanstein.
Dr. Duncanstein.
That's right. lost that game 80-72 in the semifinals. I think what's interesting about Iowa, like right now, we get this perception, and it's rightfully, we don't have any pro teams in the state. So Iowa and Iowa State are really our pro teams. Iowa State's more central west, and Iowa's in the middle, more eastern central. But you look at like Iowa's bread and butter the last few years has been women's basketball. When Caitlin Clark had her run, they went to 2 straight title games. You look at what she's done after she's left the college with the Indiana Fever. Dan Gable, historically, wrestling has been our program at the University of Iowa. And the last few years, that's not been the case. We've been in the top 5 in the country, but that's not good enough for Iowa standards in wrestling.
Yeah.
Ben McCollum, one of the first things he did when he got the job, he talked to the AD, Beth Getz, about moving the student section closer to the floor, put them right behind one of the rims, and trying to have more of a intense home atmosphere experience for our students. And I just think, going back to Tommy's point, it's spot on. In the regular season, Iowa lost 10 Big Ten conference games. They went 10-10, and they had lost 7 of their last 9. The thing we preach about in basketball, Tommy, and you probably played for coaches that were like this, is we want to get better every practice, every day. And a lot of times we are judged about how we finish the last part of the season. And if we are getting better, the reason I had hope for Iowa against Illinois is because Iowa was a different team when they played them in conference play. Because when you have, to Tommy's point, when you have these younger players, or let's say these transfers that are getting together for the first time, it takes a while for them to mature and play well together. And that's why you'll see some incredible runs in this tournament. Because they're playing with more continuity than some of the Power 4 teams, in my opinion. Quickly, a quick blueprint of this Final Four. I still like Arizona. I know Michigan's great, and Michigan has all the capabilities to win a game they're favorite, as Tommy said. I think one of the things that's interesting, when you watch Arizona warm up and Michigan warm up, physically they look like NBA guys. They do. And I think Arizona's got I think it's going to be a tremendous basketball game. Michigan is very capable of winning the game. I like Arizona. And then in the other semifinal, it can go either way because Hurley's a great coach. Underwood's a great coach. So I think the winner of the Arizona-Michigan game is going to win the whole thing. That's pretty easy take right now, I think, Tommy, on that. But I still think if you're UConn and you can do what you did against Duke, and you're Illinois, and Illinois, the Sweet 16 game, that's where you look where Illinois really just basically had a home crowd for Houston. They just stymied Houston, went like on a 19-0 run in the second half. So Illinois, UConn, whoever wins that game is capable of making it a heck of a final game.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to kind of be looking down while you're talking there, Matt. I just got a text message that NC State just hired Justin Gainey.
I think it's a great hire.
Yeah, I think it's a great hire. I mean, he doesn't have any head coaching experience, but he's been around for a long time, and he's been working under a lot of the right people. And he bleeds NC State red. I mean, he was a great 4-year player for us back in the day. Great point guard, good general, and I've heard just so many wonderful things about him as far as his relationship with players and his loyalty to players. And that's a refreshing word for all of us Wolfpackers right now, is that loyalty word, right? I mean, that's good. So we'll see. Hopefully that it comes from a pretty reliable source, but we'll see if it pans out here in the next couple of minutes. It should pop up all over the place. So
that's awesome.
Well, and you know what? Make it quick. And here's some numbers. Wesley Duncan, watching the show down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, sent me this. LSU spending a lot of money. LSU, Brian Kelly buyout, $54 million. Lane Kiffin buyout from Ole Miss, a bargain, only $3 million. Lane Kiffin contract, $91 million. Matt McMahon buyout at LSU, $8 million. Will Wade, NC State buyout, $5.3 million. Drops to $3 million in April. And then Will Wade contract expected $30 million. Details not yet announced. Hey, I don't want to hear about fiscal responsibility. Do what you want to do. But I'm telling you what, at some point the fans are going to sue for the right to go to practice, the right to go to a lot of things. And you look at John Summerall, by the way, the football coach at Florida, he may not win every game this season, but he's going to expect to. But man, is he endearing himself to the Gator Nation. And I'm seeing Alex Golish, maybe these new coaches that are 40, 42, 43, like Golish and Summerall, are realizing, our players are coming and going like stocks trading on the exchange, but we need to have relationships and maybe we can stick around a lot longer. I think that is what will happen. And guys, this has been so fun. And we'll do it again. We got next Monday, and then we'll go back to it. Not as much basketball, obviously, but right now it's hot. But the SEC, I don't know what they're willing to spend, Tommy. And if NC State gets Skaney, isn't that the one you said's on the staff at Tennessee, Matt?
Yeah. He's the associate head coach,
part of the Rick Barnes. Yeah, that is. And yeah, Boo Corrigan, I don't blame him one bit, and I'm surprised he didn't go off on some rant, but it's a great job in a tradition-rich program. So
hey, Rob, I don't want to interrupt you again, but look at your text message I just sent you. It's probably something inappropriate we can't actually show on the air, but it's read the bottom of it.
Whoa! Oh God! As Douglas Niedermeyer said at the Interfraternity Council meeting, the decorum prohibits my listing of the charges against members of Tau Delta fraternity. They had a toga party.
Let's just put it this way. The internet is undefeated and always will be. There's some funny stuff out there, man. My gosh.
There really is, man. Hey, Tommy Kane, Pack 30 Productions. I love it. I absolutely love this stuff. And we'll see you Thursday if you can join us. We got basketball heavy. We got football tomorrow. We'll have Bartu, Pete Cordelli, and Ellis Johnson. Matt Dean, incredible insight. Thank both of you more than you know for sharing your time with us. Follow it, like it, subscribe. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Check out all of our great sponsors like Landers Ford. Hey, it's almost the end of truck month. Get out there, no payment for 90 days. Brad Bellamy, the general manager, they are at Mount Moriah and I-240. Great people to work with. Huge inventory on the lot. Poplar and Houston Levy. Buy from them. Buy from our sponsors. That's great for us. Man, what a show. And mytownroofing.com. Folks at Hewlett and Dunn and hempforpros.com. If you got aches and pains, trouble sleeping, they are your source to go to. Like it, share it, subscribe. We'll see you tonight on this channel. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate it.